Hello everyone, Moss here again, here to give you a quick tutorial about more advanced topics surrounding combat in Cyrodiil. So we'll start from the very basics. When you are stealthed and crouched in Cyrodiil, you become invisible to your enemies. So when you are crouched, there are some skills that you'll be able to cast and maintain your invisibility, should I ever actually go invisible here. So these skills are usually skills that only affect you, that won't affect any other person around you. Like, they won't heal, they won't damage, they won't do anything. They're only self-buffs. So for example, I can cast these wings and I can stay hidden, because it only affects me. But if I use this AoE damage ability, it will detect me. So this is something that you can try out with a friend to see. It's really good to know what skills you have on your bar that you can cast and stay invisible. It's also really good to know what skills on your bar you have that will deal AoE damage around you if you're chasing down a Nightblade. You can reveal invisible units by doing any kind of AoE damage, so that's also really important to know. We've all had that Nightblade disappear right in front of us using that skill, and then we have to have ways of revealing them. So that's always really important. There's also some animations that are bugged. So for example, the Warden's wings, when you're crouched and stealthed out, you're invisible to the enemy. However, they will be able to see the animation. So again, get with a friend, stealth out, get in a duel, and see what kinds of things you can do and what kind of things you can't. Second important thing is roll dodge fatigue. So if I do one roll dodge, you can see the bottom right hand corner about how much stamina it takes, and I get these little green feet around my feet. So every single roll dodge that you have, while you have these green feet, you can see how much more stamina it takes, right? And there's also some cooldowns just under my feet there. So roll dodging more than once, like roll dodging twice within a few seconds, is going to cost a lot more stamina, and it increases more and more and more stamina as you go. So when you're roll dodging, you can't just roll dodge and roll dodge and roll dodge and roll dodge. Like, roll dodging more than once is really silly, and it takes up so much stamina that you have to be really careful when you choose to roll dodge and when you choose to, use some other skill to defend yourself. Next thing is block casting. You can block and cast spells. So when you're under pressure and you still have lots of stamina, you can block and cast spells. Light weaving. When you are on the offensive and you're going in for the attack, it's very important to do light attacks in between your rotation, all your regular attacks. The reason that you do this is it will break up. Whenever you light attack and then cast a skill right after, you can see I'm doing it right here, but the animation of the light attack will actually be cut shorter if you do it correctly. So here I go. So whenever you're doing these light attacks, this block weaving, you're actually getting in a light attack, but the animations are so short, you're actually increasing your damage per second. This is also going to help with your resource management because you're not having to spam your skills as much. You're able to get in lots of damage. And I mean, don't forget how much damage a light attack does. Like, look at those damage numbers, right? I mean, compared to my whip, like, it's 1/3 of a whip. And if you can get a little extra one in there really fast, like, so this is something worth practicing. It's called light weaving, and make sure that you can actually do it, well. Which brings us to a point about resource management. So people think that PvP is all about just bursting down your enemy and getting their health to 0, but in reality, you don't die when your health reaches 0. You die when your magicka or your stamina or both reach 0, and then you're really easy to kill. So when you're running around, consider maybe, like if an enemy's almost dead and some friends are jumping on him, that you do some heavy attacks instead of, burning your resources. Also, when you have major buffs, like this is a 19-second long buff, make sure that, that you're timing it out properly so that you're not recasting it before you need to, that you recast it only as needed, right? That if you're spamming shields and healing skills, that you just have to really watch your resources. And which brings me into my next point about rotations. So when I'm playing defensively against a player, I know, for example, how long certain buffs of mine are going to last, so I can recast them. But more importantly, when I do decide to go offensive against a player, I'm fully aware how many lava whips I can get in before I'm going to A, run out of magicka, and before B, I know that I'm going to have to pull off and recast, maybe do a heavy attack, and recast my major buffs so that they don't go down. It's important to sit, and you can do it in a duel with a partner, or you can do it with a target dummy, but sort of like one person plays offense, the other person plays defense, and you sort of get this idea in your head that when you go on the offensive, that these are the kinds of, this is how many of these skills you can cast before you have to back off and recast your skills. Then when you're in the heat of the battle, your decision making, you can focus more on your decision making, and you can let your fingers and you can let your hands just via muscle memory take care of, you know, your offensive rotations and your defensive tactics, right? Very important. So those are, oh yeah, and running, sprinting. Be careful about sprinting, especially, right? You don't want to sprint into a fight and then run out of stamina, roll dodge twice, and all of a sudden you get CC'd, you can't break free. It's really bad. So watch running and sprinting and dodging, etc. So those are all the individual unique mechanics. So from here we can talk about some more group-oriented tactics. So the most important thing to do is to always stay on crown. It's insane how important it is. However close you think you should be to the crown at all times, you need to be closer than that. You also need to follow whatever crown is doing. If the crown is mounted, you should be mounted. If crown is stealthed, you should be stealthed. If I run up to a corner here and I stealth out, it's very important that my allies, that you guys will stealth further away from me, and then, you know, move up to me while stealthed. Too many times I see people run up to where a crown is, stand on them, and then crouch. This gives away the position. You have to always assume that people are watching you, that there are invisible eyes, that there are scouts, there are Nightblades that are just sitting around watching us, right? You have to always be careful. When we do stack on crown, whenever crown stops, you should stack right on top of him. Be one person thick. It's very important. Be one person thick. Saving your ultimate. Ultimates really need to be used in a coordinated way. If you're just using your ultimate on cooldown, then as a team, when we need all of our ultimates together to fight against another large group, well, then you're not going to have your ultimate, and we're gonna fail. We're gonna lose. So make sure that you're saving your ultimates. You'll hear callouts for when to drop them, specifically when we're engaging, when we're ambushing. Those are excellent times to use your ultimates. Callouts. I hear people say things like this: "Behind us, behind us." Well, that could be 2 players, and that could be a whole raid. That could be 2 whole raids behind us. When you're giving callouts, the number is the most important thing. It's the most important thing. If I hear 2, I don't care. If I hear 5, maybe. If I hear 50, I certainly will pay attention. The second most important thing is color and location. So I'll hear like 3 reds front door, and that lets me make an informed decision about what kind of callouts to make. And like then after that direction, so like, you know, 5 reds front door coming in. That's an excellent callout, and callouts are important. When we are stealthed out and about to ambush a group, you want to make sure that you stay stealthed until you become revealed. And again, you can cast all the skills, you know, the buffs that you have that will keep you invisible. And then you want to break your invisibility and then cast all your other buffs and then go in for the fight. When we're approaching when mounted, like sometimes we'll do that. We'll be mounted and we'll run at groups, right? Because they're much further away. So when we do that, it's important that you stay on your mount until you actually get into the enemy, and that you jump off your mount and then fight from there. This is the idea of moving onto and not up to an enemy group when we ambush them. If this target dummy right here is the beginning of a group, and the group sort of takes up the whole space of this pool here, when I engage the fight, I might want to do an attack on this guy, right? But as I move in, I'm casting my buffs. I might do a damage over time, but realistically, I want to get into the fight. I want to find the squishy healers in the back and start to attack them. I don't want my whole raid to run up to their group and then stand at their group like toe to toe like this and then start fighting the guy in the front. What that does is it gives everyone else behind them a chance to rally. It gives them a chance to get their buffs up. The whole point of ambushing enemies is that they don't see it coming, and we've killed all of them. We've killed the whole group of them. We moved through them like a wave, and we just killed them as we moved through them. So if I lay a damage over time on this guy and I move through, well shit, the person behind me, they can also lay a damage over time on this guy and then move through. And then the 4th and 5th guy, they can throw down some executes and now he's dead, and then they drop their ultimates right here, right? Like we sort of move through. It's so crazy important. So many times I jump into a fight, I jump in like this, kabam! I jump right into the middle of the group, I drop my ultimate, I'm fighting. I die right here, I turn around, my friends are all still way the fuck over there because they ran up to the first guy and they started doing this, right? It's like, no, we want to, when we ambush, we engage on them hard and we kill them all. We kill them all. So when we do engage like this, when we do engage in combat like this, there's sort of a rotation that you have to go through. The first thing that you always want to do is get your self buffs and pop your potions. So people think that your potions, because of other games, right, that your potions are reactive, that when you're low on magicka, when you're low on health, you want to pop your potion to get back up, but that's so incredibly incorrect. You want to pop your potion at the beginning of the fight because it gives me major intellect. This is just a shitty Essence of Magicka potion. You don't have to use fancy potions, but whenever you do start a fight, you do want to pop it because it's going to give you a lot of that buff, right? Especially if you have this passive under alchemy, right? It makes my buffs for my potions last even longer. But during the fight, I want to have that major intellect going. I want to have 20% more magicka recovery as I fight. Magicka recovery, stamina recovery, right? But it's so important to pop your potion at the beginning of the fight, and then whenever it's on cooldown, you pop it again. So this is where rotations come in again, right? If you know that you can pop your potion and you can do all these skills and you can fight and you can fight and you can fight, you get the sense of when that potion should be popped again. That's so incredibly important. They're not reactive. Potions are meant to be used proactively. Don't forget. Yeah. Make sure that when the crown calls to move in a direction, that you move in that goddamn direction. So here's a perfect example, and this ties in to the idea of not chasing. So if we come into a fight and you're fighting this enemy here and he's almost dead, and you know that if you just hit him once or twice more that you'll kill him, and at the same time crown calls, move north up the stairs, move north up the stairs, you have 2 seconds. You have 2 seconds to kill this guy. If you can't kill him in 2 seconds, right? Oh, he's still alive. Oh, he did a big burst heal. You need to leave him alone and start moving. You need to stay on crown. If you're chasing this enemy here and he runs the opposite direction, and you have 2 friends that are with you and you're following him, and there's an enemy over here and 2 friends are following this guy, and there's an enemy over here and 2 friends are following this guy, and crown calls to move this direction, if I get to the top of these stairs and I stealth out, because I'm aware of something that you're not, like there's another group of enemies up here that I'm trying to fight, or I'm trying to keep the group together, and I look around and I see people way down over there, and way up there, well, that we've lost. Our enemies have successfully managed to pull us apart. You're at risk because you're on your own. There's some, it's so important that you stay and that you move with crown. There are lots of add-ons that you can get that'll help this. But this is something that you'll have to do. There's through the other videos that I've made there. I do have lists of add-ons, and also you can ask me. You can come check it out and ask me. So, not chasing and using line of sight. If you're under pressure and you have to move away from an enemy, doing anything that you can to block their line of sight of you, right? Like stick really tight to pillars and other objects. This is going to really help you. They're not going to be able to target you with skills. They're not going to be able to really do anything to you. And we also use this as a group. So if we were to, let's say, run down this hill and we're 20 and they're a group of 60, and we catch them by surprise and we're able to kill a significant group of them, and then crown calls a retreat, well, we're going to retreat and we're going to pop around some kind of barrier and maybe stealth out or mount up. And then as the enemy pushes us, as they come around this corner here, we're going to be able to launch ourselves at them again and push down and kill them again. So use line of sight. Line of sight is very, very important. Break line of sight whenever you can. When you die, don't resurrect immediately. When you die, please don't just resurrect at the closest keep and then start running in. That's something that people do. It's a bad habit that you learn when you run with pugs, but you don't want to do it. And there's a couple good reasons why. First reason is, there's probably faster ways for you to get back in the fight. We might be pushing in and resurrect you. Second reason is we should really always have forward camps. forward camps are incredibly important. You need to carry a forward camp if you're level 6. It's so important. And if one needs to be put down and you're the person in that position, put it down. Don't be selfish. You're a team player, right? Put that forward camp down. I know they're expensive. They cost a lot of AP, but we do it for the benefit of everybody. And the third reason is we might blood port someplace. I might make a call that we are traveling all the way across the map to a faraway location. And if you respawn at Nickel and we're gonna blood port to Vlasteris, well, you can't port to Vlasteris. You can only blood port there. And now you not only have made the group weaker because you've removed a member from it, but you've also put yourself in a shit position. Now you have to go out and find a place to die. So don't just automatically respawn, right? You can ask Crown, like, oh, should we respawn here? Should we respawn there? But perhaps we'll just hold it. Perhaps we'll just hold it. That's the right habit to get into, is holding your respawns until it's called for. Whew. So much stuff. Res the dead. Res the dead. If you're not under pressure and there's a dead person standing around you, res them. Raid leads, i.e. me, should not be resing players. I have lots of other things that I have to think about. And healers also really shouldn't be resing players. I know that some Templars wear Kagranek's Hope and they're really fast at resing, and that's fine, right? But, you know, we really need our healers healing, so they also kind of shouldn't really be resing, especially in the thick of combat. That really shouldn't be the thing. Res the dead. When we're moving through a breach, so let's say that a door goes down or a wall goes down, and the area is really, really hot. It's really, really difficult for us to move through. You have to listen to callouts. We're going to have to move together, and usually we go in and we go left and we go right. If you're a healer, we need siege bubbles in the breach. We need all those defensive ultimates, DK Earth and Heart ult, barrier, negates, healing thicket, all those healing and all those shield ultimates. We're going to need them as we move through a breach, but it's definitely doable if we all do it together, if we work at it together. Okay, the last topic is choosing your targets. Why are tanks bad in PvP? The reason that tanks are bad in PvP is because any group that knows what they're doing is going to identify you as a tank. They're going to see you cast your really tanky skills, and they're going to ignore you. They're going to just ignore you. When you're choosing your targets, the first targets that have to die are always healers. If you see somebody holding a restoration staff, which is held upright just like this, and they start casting healing springs, they start casting combat prayer, if you identify them as, right, here's a combat prayer, right? If you identify them as a Templar or as a Warden, right, usually DKs don't make good healers, so if you see me out there, you know that I'm not, I just happen to have that skill on my bar. But if you see Templar healers, they have to die. Call out, if you're close to Crown, if you're far away from Crown, don't bother, but if you're close to Crown, call out their at name. Healer, healer, this target, target Mournful Aegis. Call out the target, and we'll murder them. The second most important targets to take down are those glass cannons. Those Nightblades who are holding bows, right? Those players need to die next. And then we go down the list, right? We want the most damaging DPS killed first, all the way down to the least damaging DPS. So that's why tanks are kind of useless, right? You don't really want to play a tank. You want to play a person that can kill the enemy, and because otherwise people are just gonna ignore you. They're gonna see you as a non-threat, and they're just going to ignore you. And you know, we're in the business of killing skilled groups of players. We're not in the business of killing just pugs, right? Because that's not what our target is, right? So I hope that you found this video useful. I know there's a lot of information between all the different content that I've released, but yeah, it's definitely worth reviewing and, you know, making some notes for yourself. But yeah, I hope I'll see you guys out there.